Hi everyone, today I'm going to tell you about Jim Jones and the Jonestown Massacre. So, to start off, have any of you heard of Jim Jones or the Jonestown Massacre or the famous Kool-Aid? Okay, well, for those of you who haven't heard, he was a pretty important part of history, and I guess you could categorize him as a really radical evangelist, and he was responsible for over 900 deaths. Jim Jones began, as any preacher would, by spreading his beliefs and gaining followers. However, things took a turn for the worse once he got his followers to follow him across the world and end their lives. According to biography.com, Jim Jones was born on May 13th, 1931, and took care of himself growing up as a child because both of his parents had pretty demanding jobs. And his parents, since they weren't in the picture a whole lot, his neighbors ended up taking him to church a lot of the times. And he really liked this, and he started going more and more and became really close with the minister there and started taking what he learned there and preaching it all over the community. Because of these, beliefs and, weird things that he did to kids his age, because he was only 10 years old, he didn't have many friends because he saw it as, dancing and drinking and doing sports, as sinful. So he was a pretty lonely child, so he really did focus on only, this religion aspect of his life. And when his parents split, he moved to Richmond, Indiana, where he worked as a hospital orderly, meeting his now wife. And then in 1952, he announced that he would officially join the ministry as a student pastor in a poor white neighborhood in Indiana. And there he had a reputation as a healer and evangelist, where he eventually branched out into creating his own church called the Wings of Deliverance Church in 1955, which would later and more popularly be known as the People's Temple. According to Jonestown EDU, in the People's Temple, there were two beliefs. The first was the belief in the salvific power of socialism, which resembled humanism in its understanding of the importance and the power of human beings to recreate and reshape reality to benefit everyone. And then the second belief was traditional Christianity, which emphasized the prophetic call to social justice and, living in apostolic communities. And back to biography.com, in the mid-1960s, Jim Jones moved his group from this small white poor town in Indiana to Northern California, where he was followed by more than 100 members. And from there, he expanded to all over California. But his preachings began to become quite a bit hypocritical because he discouraged sex and romantic relationships in a lot of his preachings, and he was actually found to be in a lot of adulterous relationships at the time. So that was kind of the first really sketchy thing that he did. In 1974, after gaining many followers, he bought land in Guyana, which is in Africa, and after a while, he started to become paranoid, and so he moved all of these people to Africa, where he lived with approximately 1,000 other people, and he ran this place like a prison camp. They got hardly any food, they weren't allowed to leave, and he preached over these loudspeakers so everyone could hear him all the time. And one of the strangest things that he did was, because he feared that people were not loyal to him so much, he had practiced suicide drills to prove their loyalty, where he would wake everybody up in the middle of the night and tell them to drink this poisonous liquid, and if they drank it, then he knew that they were all loyal, and then they'd be reminded that they're not dead, because it was like a sedated thing. According to Slate.com, on November 17th, 1978, Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown to investigate all these rumors of people being held hostage, because by this time, rumors had gotten out that this was happening. When he visited, Jim Jones tried to make everything seem normal. He treated him to dinner, but there were people still coming up to this congressman telling him to get them out of there. And he knew that something was wrong, so he was going to leave and report back, and a bunch of people came with him and were like, take me with you. And so he took some people with him and plans to come back and get the rest. This really ticked Jim Jones off, and he ordered some of his followers to go and ambush Leo Ryan as they were leaving, and where 5 people were killed, including Leo Ryan. 20 minutes prior to this shooting, the Jonestown Massacre was occurring back in Jonestown. And according to History.com, Jim Jones told everyone to come to the main pavilion and commit what he called a revolutionary act, aka suicide. So he mixed together the famous Kool-Aid, which was cyanide and Valium, and the children died first, followed by their parents and the rest of the people. And according to biography.com, those who didn't drink were forced to by the guards, and Jim Jones didn't drink this himself. Instead, they're not sure if he shot himself or was shot by someone else, but he was shot in the head and died that way. And according to History.com, the next day, officials from Guyana arrived to find the ground covered with bodies, and approximately 909 people died in this mass suicide. So basically today I told you about the Jim Jones massacre and everything leading up to it and his beliefs and all the events after. And so I really hope you take this and learn from it and know about this important thing in history. Also, there's a really good movie that I watched that actually got me interested in this whole subject. It's called The Sacrament. It was on Netflix for a while. I don't know if it still is, but definitely give it a watch. It's a reenactment, and it's so good, and it's so, like, wow. So, yeah, that's all.